we're going to look at the menu features of the J100 and 200 series tubs. So the menu button is this button to the left of the temperature. So when I first push this button, it's going to tell us PF, and then it'll scroll text to tell us primary filtration. Now when I hit the plus button, we're asking our primary filtration to start at midnight at 12 a.m. If I hit the plus or minus, we can change that setting. Okay, and then jet pump 1 will always lock the setting in, so it's locked at midnight. And now this is the number of filtration settings we want to occur in a 24-hour period of time. So let's set that to 4 filtration settings, lock that in, and now this is the duration of each filter setting: 1 hour, 2 hour, 3. So let's set it to 2 hours, lock that in. Okay, now we're going to hit the button again. We go to heat. The heat we want to set to the auto. We don't want it on eco, we want it set to auto, and that means it will heat all the time. Lock that in. Hit the button again. FC, scrolling text tells us this is a filter change. What that means is the tub has an internal countdown right now set for 90 days. In 90 days it will count it down to 0. The screen will tell us that it's time to change your filter. This is just a reminder, and then you have to actually go in, use your plus or minus to reset, and I'm going to suggest to set it to 90 days, which is approximately 3 months for those filters to be brought to the store for a cleaning. Hit menu again. Now we're into our UV. The UV is our clear bulb. The clear bulb has a 1-year life, so it will count itself down from 365 days all the way down to 0. Once it hits 0, again, it will tell you on the control that it's time to change your clear bulb. You go into this setting, you reset this to 365 days after you've changed that bulb, obviously. We will have a separate video on how to change clear bulbs. Menu, H2O. This tells you when it's time to do a water change. So again, use your plus or minus. We have it set for 6 months or 180 days, and we can lock that in. So again, once it counts it down to 0, it will tell you it's time to change your water. I'm going to show you one thing on this setting as well. I'm going to go back into that water change or water refresh. If I go past 180 days, I can go to an off setting. What that does is it turns the countdown off. For some people, they don't want to be bothered with the countdowns. So any of these countdowns, whether it's the filter change, the UV, or the water refresh, you can turn it to off if you choose. Hit the menu button to the next one. It will now go into the time. This allows us to change the hours, lock it, the minutes, lock it, AM versus PM. Go back to the menu, same thing with date. April, and we can change that first off with the year, lock it into 2020, April, March, April, lock it into April, the 7th versus the 8th, lock it, and now our date is locked. Temperature, this is simply the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius. By default, the tub will come in Fahrenheit. Language, you've got some different language settings. You have English, French, Spanish, German, back to English. I'll lock in English. The lock feature. Now the lock feature gives you a few different options in here. This will lock all access. The next one will be into your settings, like your filtration settings. The next one will be just locking the temperature. And then the last one will be a service setting. And we use the service setting if you want to turn all of your pumps off in order to change your filters, rather than having to turn the breaker off to do this. So I'm going to lock the service. So I'm hitting jet 1. And what it's going to do is it's going to shut the pumps down here. Now it didn't do it immediately. That's because the heater was on. So it's going to take a couple of seconds to let that heater cool down, and then the pumps are going to stop. And then at that point, there it goes, it stopped. I can access my filters. Now, once I do my filter change, put clean filters in, I want to start the system up. It's really easy to get out of the lock. You simply hold the menu button down for 10 seconds. And there we go. And now it's going to tell us that we turn the service off. If you go into multiple settings, so let's say you turn the settings off, the temperature off, and the pumps off, you would have to manually do each one. And it will tell you on the scrolling text that you have turned the temperature off, the lock setting off, you've turned the settings off, or you've turned the all access off. Over here we have our buttons to adjust our temperature. So right now the tub is at 74 degrees. That's the actual water temperature. When we hit the plus or the minus, this tells us what we want to set the tub to heat to. So I'm going to dial this up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a nice temperature. 104 is the hottest that the hot tub will go to. 7, 8, 9, 100. It's flashing. That's what we want it to heat to. Back to 74. That's what the actual temperature is. Hot tub is now going into a cool setting. And that's solely because the water is below 80 degrees. It's purging the lines. This is an automatic built into the system. I'm just going to override it. So once the tub gets above 80 degrees, that cool will go away. This is just an automatic in the system. You have 2 jet buttons on this particular tub. If it's a 1 pump system, this button 2 will not exist. Pump 1 has a low speed and a high speed to it. Pump 2 goes straight to high speed. And then you have your light button. Basically, it's an on-off. And as you push the light on, it will toggle through to the next coloration in the sequence. So the settings are all very simple on the J-100 and J-200 series tubs.